Today, I want to show you how to make an Excel dashboard quick and easy. No matter what industry you're in, everybody uses dashboards, especially in Excel. And if you aren't using them, you absolutely should be. It's a great way to take your busy data and convert it into something that's visually appealing so that not only you, but others can understand what's going on behind the scenes. Today, I've got a file of caffeine related sales products, and we're going to take that file from scratch and turn it into a beautiful dashboard that you can create in just minutes. So let's jump in. Okay, so here's our data. The first thing we want to do is convert this into a table because that will make everything much easier when it comes to getting together our calculations. So to do that, just select anywhere in here. We'll hit Control T. And yes, our table has headers. Hit OK. And there you go. Now you can format this any way you want, but we'll just leave it as is because it's really not going to affect our dashboard. With our table created, I want to go ahead and insert a pivot table. So go up on our insert, pivot table, new worksheet, that's fine. And let's rename this sheet Geographical Analysis. Now I want to make a copy of this. We'll create copy, and we will rename it Sales Analysis. Perfect. Now, if you could see from the sales data, we do have some geographical variables in here. We've got state, we've got markets, market size. So for our dashboard, we're going to want to use some of these to determine what sort of information we can get from our data. So first up, let's pull in state and let's do sales for our values. So we'll get the sum of sales. And you know what? Let's go ahead and convert this into dollars. Perfect. And I'm going to go ahead and create another pivot table in here. This time, let's remove state and we'll use market. Instead of sales, let's use the sum of the margin. So that's the sum of our profit margin. All right, and then let's go to sales analysis. And what we want to do here is be able to show a little bit more information about our sales and what's driving the highest sales numbers. So, not so much on a geographical standpoint, but more products and timeline sort of things. So, for a timeline, let's go ahead and pull in some date features, which would be date. And I don't want months, and let's get rid of date. So now we've got years and quarters. Perfect. Again, let's pull in sum of sales into our values, and let's go ahead and convert those as well. All right, and let's create one more pivot table. This time, let's get rid of our dates. Instead, let's look at products. Instead of sales, how about we take a look at our profit and expenses so we can get more of a detailed view of what each product is costing us and making us, and total expenses. Perfect. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to make our charts here so that way we can pull them into our dashboard when our dashboard is ready. So what we're going to do is we'll take our pivot table and under the insert tab, we'll go ahead and create a pivot chart. Now for time series, it's usually best to use a line graph, but honestly, we can really make anything work depending on what you're trying to achieve. I don't want any of these years quarter information. We will right click and hide all field buttons on the chart. Let's also get rid of our title. And now we can format this. Since this data is caffeine related, let's go ahead and choose something more appropriate color-wise. First, I know I like the dollar signs, but now I'm starting to second guess myself for our chart. So let's just change it to number and get rid of our decimal places. I like that much better. So for our chart area, I don't want any fill. And for border, no border. Let's change our line. And down here, we've got the smooth line. I think that just gives a better appeal to it. Okay, and up here under marker, let's go to our marker options. We want to do built-in. Let's take it up a notch. Let's give it a solid fill. And I like that coffee color there. And let's give it a solid line border. Let's see how that looks. I like that. All right, while we're at it, let's go ahead and change our grid lines. All right, I think that's good for now. So let's go to our next chart. Again, under the Insert tab, we'll choose Pivot Chart. And this time, let's do a combo. So I like this with the clustered column, but instead of the line, let's do area. First things first, let's get rid of these field options down here. And let's move this. How about we put that on the bottom? Change this here. And let's remove the border. Now let's style a little bit more. I always like to give my bar charts and column charts a little bit of a shadow and soft edges. 3D format. Actually, I like the shadow, but let's change the angle just a tad. There we go, just a little bit further out. All right, next let's adjust our area chart. I like the color. For the border, let's do a solid line. Actually, we could probably make this a little bit nicer. Instead of the automatic fill, let's go ahead and use a gradient. Let me get rid of these. I want the direction to go down. Change our color. Perfect. And I'll go ahead, I'll get rid of these grid lines. And here we can clean this up a little bit. Let's change this back to number. Finally, let's get rid of the fill over the background. Perfect. All right, so sales data analysis is good. We can use a map chart for this. The only problem with the map chart is we can't use pivot table information to create it. So what we'll do, grab that, copy it, and let's paste these as values. And we'll just give them titles, state, and sales. So if we highlight this here, go under Insert, Maps. Again, let's get rid of the title. Let's go ahead and select No Fill to make that empty as well. Lastly, we've got our markets here. Notice we can use the pivot table, so let's go under Insert, Pivot Chart, and let's use a bar chart. Let's go ahead and order this. Go descending by sum of margin. Let's change that. Let's go ascending by sum of margin. Now let's get rid of our field buttons again. Get rid of our title. Really like the grid lines. So we'll get rid of those. Let's change our format here. Go to number. And let's change our colors. Again, then we'll apply some shadow, soft edges, and let's change the top bevel. Finally, let's get rid of the fill and the border. And you know what? I believe we forgot to get rid of the border here. Now it's time for our dashboard. So we'll go ahead, create our dashboard. Let's give it a bit of color. So first thing we want to do, let's give it a header. Now you could probably merge some cells here. But what I am going to do is add in a shape, shape fill, shape outline. I don't want to do any outline effects. Might as well stick with the shadow. Let's insert another shape. How about an icon? Do coffee. Now let's insert a text box. Coffee product sales dashboard. We don't want any shape fill. We don't want any border. Let's give it a text effect of a shadow. Looks good. All right, now let's add another shape. This time we'll get this smooth rectangle. Shape fill, let's just do white. No outline. All right, now let's insert a text box. Let's call it product sales. Let's make that bold. no fill. So we have a white background, no outline. And we'll give that one a shadow too. You know what? Let's just make it a smidge bigger. Good. All right, so we'll take these, hit the control key so we can get both of them. And then we'll do control D, and control D again. So now we've got a few copies. So this one, let's bring it down a little bit and bring it over about right there. This one, make sure to hit that control button, bring it down, see if we can align it. Let's bring it back to match the header. Down, looks good. Control. Let's bring it over. You know what? Let me get rid of this. Okay. So let's change this to sales by state. Drag that out. Change this to our profit loss by market. Drag that out. Change this to sales by quarter. Let's drag that out a little bit more. Perfect. So now we're ready for our charts. Let's go to our geographical analysis. We'll take this chart, Control C to copy, and paste it right in there. You know what? Let's copy all these, move it down just a tad. Perfect. Let's drag this down. Looks good. Let's go back to our pivot charts. Take our bar chart and paste it in here. Make it a little bit smaller. Now let's go to our sales analysis. We'll just copy both of these. Bring them over. Shrink this guy a little bit. Okay. Let's get down to this guy. Shrink him. You know what? We forgot to remove his border. So let's go back to our format chart area, select no line. Much better. But why not make this dashboard a little more interactive? Let's select our combo chart and we want to insert a slicer. A slicer will let us further filter this data. So how about we choose market? Pretty close to our color match. Let's insert a slicer for our profit loss margin. Again, go to insert, slicer, and since this is already showing our markets, let's do market size. Lastly, we'll do sales by quarter. Now there are 8 quarters in here for 2 years, so maybe they want to just view it by year. This time, let's go to insert and we'll choose timeline. And obviously there's just the date. Now this gives you a few different options. You could do months, quarters, days, years. We want years. So let's change the color. Just to separate these, we'll add one more shape. This time just a line. Let's choose this thick dark line here. Actually, let's give it an effect. Do the shadow, because we love shadows. Go ahead and duplicate that with Control D. Drag one down here. Perfect. All right. Let's get a closer look. So as you can see, we got our markets. Let's filter on central. We could change it to east. You can hold the control key down to select multiple. Now our profit and loss. Let's look at our major markets. Looks good. And let's look at the most recent data, 2011. All right, you can see those other quarters dropped off. And that's it. Looks pretty good, pretty fast, and pretty visually appealing. Now, did you see how easy that was? Don't let the look of complicated graphs and charts steer you away from trying your hand at creating your own dashboard. Now, there's a lot of different ways we could have manipulated these charts or even used entirely different ones, depending on the data source you're working with. There's no right or wrong way. So my best recommendation for you is to give it a shot. Make up your own data set or grab one free from the internet. You can follow along with my video or just map it out on a sheet of paper and create your own. I promise you're going to find it much easier than you think it is. Thanks for watching today, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button and consider subscribing for future Excel content you can use.